At UMC, access to your healthcare is only a call away. Dial 74NURSE for free, instant medical advice from experienced and trusted UMC nurses, 24 hours a day. Learn more at umchealthsystem.com.
And welcome in everyone to RedRaiders.com. I am Zach Long, that is Krista Pirtle, and it's time for our topics discussion on the state of Texas Tech football, and we're going to stay focused right there today. Krista, of course, the Red Raiders coming off a third consecutive loss, this time to Kansas State on Saturday in Lubbock, and people are starting to get a little cranky, starting to get a little down, but they need to take a chill pill, take a step back. In the preseason, this is about where we thought this football team would be. It's not like they're horrible. People don't need to go listen to emo music and hold themselves off in their room in a state of depression. Texas Tech, still a good football team. They've just played some much better competition.
Absolutely, and let's be honest, they're going to a bowl game, 2 years ago?
No bowl game.
No bowl game. So this is great. You're going to play some different competition in a different conference, so just chill out. You're going to see them improve. Coach Wallerstedt at the presser this afternoon said that they will get better this season, so just look for that. They have things that they need to improve on, and they're looking to do that this week against Baylor.
And if you want to make everyone forget about those 3 losses, there you go, Krista. Beat Baylor, screw up their undefeated season. That's how you make a Red Raider fan happy right there, and that's something they're looking forward to. And before everyone just writes this game off, this morning it opens up as a 28-point spread for Baylor, and it's looking like, there's people quietly whispering and loudly whispering, oh God, Tech's going to get drilled. This is going to be an embarrassing day in Arlington. Yes, that could happen, but there's also some things you need to look at with Baylor and see that they are susceptible and things could go wrong for them on Saturday.
Absolutely. Anything can happen any given week. This time last year, Baylor upset Kansas State, Stanford beat Oregon. Last week, Stanford beat Oregon. So, just because Baylor has a top 5 ranking in front of its name doesn't mean that they're going to go undefeated. I think that Baylor will lose this season, and Tech could be that loss. I think that Tech has had big upsets in their history, and they can pull this one off tonight and just really screw up the Big 12.
And Baylor, of course, we've talked about Texas Tech and the injury bug and how that has impeded them. Baylor starting to have some problems, Krista. They're losing a couple really key kids.
Absolutely, but first off, Cyril Richardson, the offensive lineman, Coach Burrell said today that he should be back. As far as Glasgow, Martin, and Lake Seastrunk, their day-to-day basis, it looked like Martin went out with some sort of knee issue, although
lower leg.
Yes, but he broke his ankle before the season, so he could have re-aggravated that. Lake Seastrunk messed up his groin. They're saying that he should be back. He came back in for a play, but he just wasn't too mobile. But the loss of Tevin Reese will be big. He dislocated his wrist. He had surgery earlier this week. So I think that his deep threat will hurt not being there on the field.
And as for Texas Tech, if their offense is clicking, this will be the best unit Baylor has faced if that Red Raider team takes care of business and doesn't make some of the silly mistakes they've been making the last few weeks.
Absolutely, and I really don't think it matters who the quarterback is. If it's Davis Webb or Baker Mayfield, both of them have been able to complete passes, and I think that Tech is actually above Baylor in passing offense in both the nation and the Big 12, so Baylor hasn't faced that type of attack, especially with Blake Bell last week, who couldn't throw the ball. But I just think that it's going to be tough to see if Texas Tech can get over the top of that Baylor defense.
Yeah, Oklahoma's defense gave them a chance last week, and Oklahoma's offense could not do a gosh darn thing. It was embarrassing, for people around the Oklahoma program, and they know that this week. Texas Tech, a much better offense that could do damage against Baylor. But first step, both of these football teams have a big concern, Krista, and that's with the yellow laundry that keeps hitting the field about every other play.
Absolutely, and both of these teams are penalized left and right. They are 9 and 10 in the Big 12 Conference in penalties, and I think this game is going to be closer than 28 points, actually.
Absolutely.
And so penalties will be key. If Tech makes a great play, they can't have a holding call to pull them back. Baylor, if they make a good play, they can't have pass interference to help the offense out on the other side. I really think that these two teams must play clean games. Texas Tech, have they really had a complete offensive, defensive, special teams game yet?
No, and they've said that. They have not had that magical game. They still think it's out there.
Absolutely, and that could be this Saturday, but they need to keep the laundry off the field for it to really be productive. Baylor, I'm not sure if they've had a complete offensive, defensive, special teams game because their starters haven't played all four quarters.
One time. Oklahoma was the only time they've played a full game. If Tech can make them do that, you could have some things go wrong right there and still give you a chance.
Absolutely. We'll see how they can go that way. I don't know if they'll be fatigued at this point in the year,
Right.
but if Tech can throw the ball and make them run to keep up with the line of scrimmage at least, it'll be interesting to see how that factors in.
And as we alluded to, you can erase all the doubts and all the problems within the season, even if you win one of the last two. If you beat Baylor or you beat Texas and Austin, I think most people are going to look back and go, that is a heck of a win for Texas Tech, and it shows progression. And why that is important, Krista, is the bowl picture, which is extremely muddled, extremely murky right now. The Red Raiders could slide or jump a whole bunch of places, depending on how the last 2 weeks of the season go.
Absolutely, and I took my time to project how this season would end and looked at it. See Baylor going to the Fiesta Bowl, Oklahoma State, Cotton, Oklahoma Alamo. Texas would go to Buffalo Wild Wings. Kansas State, I think Kansas State and West Virginia will both be bowl eligible by the end of the season.
Absolutely.
And with the Wildcats win over Tech, they would get the Holiday Bowl, which leaves Tech and West Virginia with the Texas Bowl and Pinstripe Bowl. Where did Tech play last year?
The Texas Bowl in Houston.
Where did West Virginia play last year?
The Pinstripe Bowl in New York City.
So those two bowls might flip-flop, and Tech could be going up to New York City for a bowl game.
Because that would mark, I think, the third consecutive year West Virginia would be up in that vicinity. And also, coming out of the Big Ten, there was a lot of conjecture today that Michigan, even though they have a bad record, they're a huge draw fan-wise, and they could go up above right now, an 8-2 Minnesota team, which could slide them down into the direction of the Texas Bowl. And I can tell you, these bowl committees do not want those matchups 2 years in a row. That is a disaster economically in terms of support for them. Those fan bases are going to be like, I went there last year. That's not something I want to do. So for Texas Tech, if they can pick one of these two teams off, that could be the difference between sunny San Diego, a very nice trip to Tempe, or Don Williams' biggest fear, a trip to the Big Apple with all the scary things that New York brings.
You would have to film that entire week. I think people would want to see how he
I don't know
handles
if
the
he'll
big
go.
city.
I really don't. It's going to be like we're going to have to, trank him or something and put him in the animal compartment of a plane to get him to New York City because he does not want to go at all. So important for the Red Raiders to get off to a good start.
So Don won't have to go
pop
north.
one of these two teams, get poor Don Williams out of a trip to New York City. And also, I think the Tempe, over there in Tempe, Arizona, the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl, they know Texas Tech would bring a lot of fans over there. They love to have their hands on the Red Raiders, and that's why this game is so big on Saturday, so nobody get too depressed or too down right here. Texas Tech still has a chance to do a lot of damage, and of course, we're going to have a ton of coverage of that game. We, of course, got Don versus Twitter. I'm sure he's going to face a whole wealth of questions this week. And we've got our UMC Health System AJ Media pregame show. And Krista will take a little detour to Tuscaloosa, Alabama to cover some men's basketball. Then she'll be right back and join Don and I in Arlington, Texas. We'll have full coverage outside of the massive Jerry World Complex on Friday and Saturday of Texas Tech and Baylor. For now, that will wrap up this episode of Topics with Krista Pirtle. I'm Zach Long. It's Krista Pirtle, and you're on RedRaiders.com.